The count of three, hello, everybody. It's Laura Eisenhower. I'm your co-host of Divine Mother Earth Time.
And I'm your other co-host, Marisa Acocella. Welcome, everybody. Today we have a very, very special guest, Sherri Divband, and Sherri is an intuitive transformational energy healer and the founder of Aramis Creative Learning Center and the Aramis Collective. She is the author of Courage to Change, The Freedom Movement, Starseeds, and The Great Awakening, Intuitive Transformation Evolution, Divinely Guided, and the Divinely Guided Children's Books and Animation Series. Sherri has focused her healing practices on guiding adults through their spiritual awakening and representing New Earth children. She works with parents and children all over the world. Sherri has a passion for teaching children how to explore and understand their spiritual gifts and is an advocate to alternative education. We love this stuff. She guides adults and children worldwide on how to reprogram limited beliefs, release trapped emotions, and strengthen their intuition. Sherri coaches her clients on navigating 3D interference and connecting with the highest version of themselves. Wow. Welcome, Sherri. It's really a pleasure to have you here.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. It's an honor to be invited on your platform, and thank you for having me, both of you.
Oh, yeah, it's so wonderful to have you here. I mean, I've seen you at events. I've wanted to interview you for so long. We've sat on panels together. My jaw always drops when you share just your work and your experiences and how you command energy and your connection with nature is super profound. Um, Talk to us about your journey and just when this started to open up to you. And did this start in childhood? Was this an event that just took place that opened up the floodgates? I mean, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to talk about the journey because it's never a straight line. And I think for me it was it's a lot of different things. But I was a child to teen parents in Los Angeles, California. So my upbringing was very different than most people. My parents were children themselves. So they struggled a lot. We didn't have a lot of money. And I went through a lot of traumas in my early childhood. So I was kidnapped at a young age. It was on the news. There was the whole thing about it. I've done a lot of healing around that. I was about 3 years old. Um, After that, I started become sexually abused by my mother's boyfriend for a long time, probably 5 years, starting at the age of 5. So those two traumas and the fact that I was an only child with two parents that were separated, and I moved around all over the United States. And I was always in a new place. I was bullied. I was always the new kid at every school. So I was bullied so bad all the time. Girls hated me. The boys thought I was cute. I was the new girl. So like I never could find my place. And I just became such a recluse, like introvert. I was so shy. To this day, I'm still working on my confidence and coming out of my shell because people were mean. I was abused. Then I started to hate humanity. And what saved my life, honestly, was a dog that I got when I was a young child. My mom got us a German Shepherd, got me a German Shepherd. And she became my best friend and she introduced me to the animal kingdom. And she was my everything. I talked to her, I slept with her, she went everywhere with me. And she, I think, helped me through such horrible times. I mean, I'm not saying my whole childhood was terrible, but a lot of traumas. And that's when I started communicating with the animal kingdom. And she opened me up to unconditional love and what that feels like and what things could feel like and how humanity could be. And I became really kind of obsessed with animals. And I became a registered veterinary technician, actually, because I had made the conscious choice in high school. I don't want to be in the workforce. I didn't want to talk to people. I hated people. I was kind of a brat at that point. I didn't like anybody. At that point, I was big enough and old enough that I was like, I'm going to fight you before you hurt me. I'm going to betray you before you betray me. And I became like the darkest version of myself because I feel like my upbringing just put me in that shadow. That shadow side became quite large. And I wasn't the best version of myself, but the only time I was free was when I was with animals. So I went into the veterinary field to get away from people. But the funny joke is that when you work with at the vet, you have to deal with the people more than you really get to enjoy the animals. So that was kind of a shock for me. So I kind of reclused in the veterinary field and became a vet tech, and I worked in the ICU, and I could be in the back by myself with my patients that were in critical condition, but I could just focus on them and I didn't have to talk to anybody. And I really enjoyed doing that. Um, through that process, around that time, I got married and I had my first child, and that was my major spiritual awakening. Because when I got pregnant with him, I said, I can't hate humanity anymore. I need to heal these wounds because I don't want him to be in the world how I see it. And then I started to look at other people in a different way. I said, maybe other people have been through traumas like myself. Maybe something bad happened to them to make them not the best version of themselves. So instead of judging everybody, instead of wanting to fight everybody, I started to understand and accept people. And my heart softened. And I was 23 years old. So I was still very young, very naive, but my son made me grow up like exponentially. And then I got into Reiki and energy healing for animals. And then my second son came 7 years later. And I started doing hypnobirthing. I taught women how to have natural childbirth because I had such traumatic births. I had another daughter, but before my daughter, I had another child, my daughter, but before I had her, I had the most amazing experience in my life. Her soul came to me before I got pregnant with her. I wasn't even thinking about another one at that point. I had two boys. I was working at the National Zoo in the hospital there, and I was doing some animal communication with clients. And she comes to me as a soul, and she introduced herself and says, I have a big job to do. I'm coming into your life. Do I have your permission? And I need your help. I'm asking you for your help. I'm letting you know before I come. So I started to channel her weekly for almost a year before I even got pregnant. And she taught me almost everything I know right now. Her soul taught me about New Earth children, about the way the world was, and my whole perspective on everything just was flipped upside down in all sorts of ways. And I had a massive awakening because of that. And then when she was born, everything changed in my life. It was a huge shift. And there's a lot more to the story, but maybe I'll stop there, see if you have any questions.
Wow.
I actually do. Have a
Okay. It's so hard to give everyone your life story without feeling like, how do you pack it all in, you know?
You did an amazing job. That was great.
Yeah, you really did. I mean, like Laura and I ask a lot of questions, and so yeah, I'm really intrigued by your daughter. So when she started coming to you, what was the time period between when she started talking to you and you gave birth? And now, how old is she now? And does she remember those conversations that she had with you?
This is a really
Do
great question. Yeah.
What
So
was she saying to you? I mean, what have you learned from her from the other side? And yeah, so those are the questions to start
So
with.
she came to me. It's hard to think back in time right now, but I want to say almost a year before I got pregnant. I was communicating with her. Then I got pregnant, so obviously the 9 months. So it was about almost 2 years, the whole process. And when I was pregnant with her, I channeled the most information. I have journals, and I shared some of those journal channelings in my second book, Divinely Guided, where I talk about New Earth children and all the things she taught me at that point. And I shared some of the messages that she gave me because I realized the messages she was giving me was for humanity. It wasn't really for me. Um, so for the first 2 years, she was exponential. She was just angelic, but she's a reverse walk-in. And I didn't know what that was until I had her. So she is a reverse walk-in.
Okay.
So what that means is that you plan ahead of time to have an angelic being or some other earthbound soul that's comfortable being a human be in your body for the first couple of years because you don't want to be a child. You don't want to go through those early stages because you're kind of evolved beyond that. So they have like an interim soul, and then they walk in when they feel it's right, or they integrate slowly over a few year period. For her, I think it was a few year period, but when she had her tonsils taken out right before her fourth birthday, I knew everybody saw she changed completely into a different version of herself. So when that happened, she became very earthbound, and The funny thing is, before I gave birth to her, the one thing that she said to me repeatedly every single time I spoke with her is, please don't let me forget who I am. Don't let me forget. Mommy, please don't let me forget. Don't let me forget. And I'm like, why did you keep telling me? Like, okay, I'm not gonna, I won't forget. But she's forgotten. She knew this was gonna happen, and now she's 10, and she's just the most beautiful soul. But she is in the Artemis group, so they're the most strong-willed people I think on the planet. And they are kind of disconnected from that spiritual side because they're anchoring in that frequency right now of their rebellion nature, because they're here to be the change makers and the future leaders. So they have to be really anchored into the present. So she's kind of detached from that, but she knows what I do. She even came to the last conference that I did. She knows about all my books. She sits in and listens to my classes sometimes. She's very open to it, but she's not really connected to that higher self of her anymore, if that makes sense.
Right, I bet it'll come back around, like
It
it's
will.
almost like a protection,
Yeah.
just to kind of archive it until, maybe reaching maturity. And just amazing, just to have you as a mother, right? She's like still there. How teenagers get like, don't hug me in public, but I'm sure they still want love. It's like sort of, I bet there's something,
Yeah.
there that it's just incredible. Just going from the kind of background that you have to the work that you do today. What kind of books are these? Like, they really just talk to like the Starseeds and the new children coming in. Is that correct?
Yeah, so a good question. So after she was born, I really opened myself up to working with people more. I was kind of like still reserved back then. So through my sessions that I was doing Reiki, basically Reiki and energy healing with people. It started out with the pets, and then I started working with the owners and their companions and doing energy healing. And then I started to get floods of information about their soul origins, and their guides would come through. And next thing you know, an Arcturian standing in my office or my wellness area. And I'm like, whoa. And then I'm seeing like mantis looking beings, and I'm communicating with all these beings that I didn't even know where they came from at first. I've learned over the years. And so I was getting so many downloads to help people. So I started a wellness center, and I started doing like healing circles. And I started feeling myself being so repetitive. I was constantly saying the same things over and over, but I noticed that people gravitated toward me, and they would just sit there for hours and just listen to me talk. And I'm a very shy person. So my kids to this day make fun of me because they're like, Mom, you're so shy. How do you go and talk to people at these conferences? And I'm like, I don't know how I do it. I step into like a higher version of myself, and then after I go hide in my room. So it was really uncomfortable for me to do that. But I said, I'm going to write a book so I could just put all this stuff in a book. And then when newer people come in their earlier stages of their awakening, I'll just give them the book and say, here, read this. So that was the first book. It's like, how do you tap into your innate knowing and your intuition, and how you trust that? And how does the conscious mind block you? And I call it the nemesis versus your friend, the conscious versus the subconscious. And I try to I was trying to teach people and guide them in their spiritual awakening. And then Divinely Guided, the second book, started after I had Aramis, and she taught me all of those things about New Earth children. And I was like, this is so much information. People need to understand these new children that are being born. So the second book was, let me talk about all the different types of children, their soul groups, and why they're here and why they're different and how they're contributing. And then the third book and the fourth book are piggybacked on a much more mature version, I think, of myself, that I finally feel comfortable in who I am. And I feel like I can put myself out there more and share the things that back in the day, I was too shy to share. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to say that because that's a little bit too woo-woo and people are going to look at me funny. So I like hid that side of me. And then finally I got to a point in my evolution where I was like, you know what? I am being gifted with this for a reason. I want to share with the world. So I'm going to stop being shy, and I'm just going to put it all out there. And that was Starseeds and the Great Awakening last year. And then this one is a continuation. And I just tell everybody everything I know. I'm like, all right, this is everything. You either resonate with it or you don't, but I'm putting myself out there. And so each book has a special meaning, I think, for me.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And then you do classes. So
Right.
what, yeah.
Yeah, and well, that's where Aramis came in. So that's the big finale, is that I realized that what she was coming into my life to do is she's a ascended master being. She's a teacher. So she comes into this reality to help move forward education. So we all, I think, can agree that the education is indoctrination. I've done many conferences where I've dedicated my entire presentation to how and why the education system is not working for our children. And I realized several years into her life when she started school, public school, she said, I want to be a teacher. And everything about her was she turned her room as a young girl, instead of Barbie, she turned her room into a classroom. She didn't want toys. She wanted to go to Staples and buy teacher supplies, stuff you put on the wall and pads of paper and different pens and journals. And she literally put things on her wall that says good morning, have a nice day, and the sun and the stars, and like all, like you would see a classroom. And she would dedicate every day to pretending to, well, not really, in her mind it wasn't pretend, she was teaching her students. And I'm like, wow, she's a teacher. And I wanted to open up a metaphysical school for children many years ago, where children can learn the things that I was teaching the parents, because I love to teach. So I've taught everything under the sun: intuitive development, Reiki 1, 2, and 3, animal communication, crystals, pendulums, you name it, esoteric wise, I've taught a class for adults. But the parents started asking me, can you teach this for my child? And I was like, that's such a brilliant idea. Yes, these children are so interested in learning about the crystals and energy and tapping and all of these things. So I started teaching classes for children. And I thought, oh, that's what Aramis that's her legacy. That's what she wanted me to help. How fun is that? But what I realized is no, it's bigger than that, and it's much more grand. And we went through the COVID period, and we all saw the collapse of the educational platform and how many children were struggling. And I realized I had that epiphany of, oh, that's what she's here for. We're here to shift the trajectory of the future of education. So my movement now is, how can we as a collective create conscious education? So I advocate for it. I speak publicly about it. I have children's books and I have cartoon about it. And it's teaching children the fundamentals, the things that they should have been, that in Lemuria and Atlantis, what they were taught, what other planets and star systems teach as a fundamental aspect of their growth. We're missing that here. We're missing that in our education system. So that's really what I'm building right now.
So, okay.
Tremendous.
So what
Incredible.
would be the actual teachings that you teach these children? What did Aramis teach you, and what is she teaching the children?
So that's a good question. So it started out about 4 years ago, and right now it is a online platform that's kind of more extracurricular based. So if you look back on our Instagram pages, there are hundreds of classes we've offered in the past 4 years of anything you could possibly imagine, mostly focused on esoteric and metaphysical type and problem solving and dream interpretation and conflict resolution and tapping and mindfulness and anything along those lines. We focus really on that because that's what they're missing in school. And that's what the parents want their children to learn. So we do monthly classes virtually. But the whole reason I moved to Florida, because I was in Maryland, drowning. I hated to be there. I've never felt like I fit in anywhere, but I really struggled on the East Coast, that mentality. I just don't, that's not who I am. I'm much more relaxed and very different than that competitive atmosphere. And it's very dense there. So I knew that wasn't the right place to start the first physical school. So we moved to, because I've attracted a good amount of parents and a large following over the last 4 or 5 years of going public. I have so many supporters in this movement, not because they're idolizing me, but they are backing me on what they believe I'm doing is something really important. So I moved my whole family to Florida, 3 children, my husband, 2 dogs, a cat, and we came here to open the first physical center because I believe this is the place that is open to it the most right now, and then we'll expand everywhere. To answer your question, what I'm looking at in the future and what we're really trying to create in a physical sense is to create a conscious environment. So it's more foundational classes like that I just mentioned, metaphysical, but project-based learning. So children understand what they're learning and they can thrive in an environment where they get to choose. So like college campus, you choose your classes for the month, for the semester rather. We choose our classes for the month. So your child could choose from a variety of classes, and maybe they really like art, so they do a lot of art classes, animal husbandry, because we'll have horses and animals, health and wellness. So there will be an umbrella of hundreds of classes to offer and to choose from, and the children and the parents get to decide what their children choose through developmental stages of learning to help them find their passion. So they're not required to do anything necessarily, kind of like the homeschool environment right now that my daughter's in, where they get to do what they want as long as it's following some sort of structure. And that's conscious education, because then children want to go to school. They are not indoctrinated at all because they're taught by mentors, not by teachers. And the mentors help them expand and find their passion and grow, so that by the time they're in their teen years, they're really looking to, okay, because this is where I see the world going. We're going out of this 9 to 5 corporate university level indoctrination camps and this severely limited society. That's crumbling, as we can see. And what happened yesterday is a big step forward in that direction. So what I see is more community and innovation. And these children are showing us and asking for what they believe they need for their generation and the future generations to come, which is their ability to expand and tap into their imagination. And right now, public schools don't allow that. They're severely limited on their ability to tap into their right brain because everything is super hyper left brain focused. So what I'm trying to create is the ability for them to decide and to choose, and then they will be much more well-rounded, and they'll learn about the necessities that we lost, physical education, understanding the earth and true conservation, and communicating with nature and animals and farming and agriculture and all of these things that are fundamental. So then they can go into trades, because that's what I see in the future is more trade schools and certifications, so that we can go into our passions and be out of this workforce, if that makes sense.
This is the most important work. I mean, I'm just so blown away. It's just incredible. I mean, do you feel there's a lot of you like that people are on board and they're feeling into what you're sharing, that you feel like there's like-minded people that you're doing this with? Do you sometimes feel like, where is everybody, or do you feel like this is a movement that's growing and it's like going to be more available as and more in the short term than the long term, more available?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll share something with you. I went on my first public interview almost 4 years ago, and I told the audience in this particular podcast about who I am and what I'm doing. And I opened up it was called Divinely Guided Children back when I first had the idea. And then it came to me like, oh, duh, Aramis, this is her legacy. So I changed the name. But back then it was Divinely Guided Children. I did one interview. My email was full within 3 days. I had emails from people all over the world, Laura and Marissa, like I'm talking Australia, all over Europe, Canada, people that didn't even speak English that had people translate for them, or Google or whatever. It's literally in the email saying, I'm crying right now. Where have you been? This is what we need. And I was actually overwhelmed. It was so much that I wasn't ready for that. I was like, this is too much support. I felt like, because then I felt responsible. Like now everyone's looking at me, and now it's going to be everyone's looking at what I do. And that's exactly what happened. It grew and grew and grew. And then I started going out and speaking publicly and doing more interviews. And I really felt this heavy burden, like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? I don't know if I can do it, because then, that 3D aspect comes in and psychs yourself out, that nemesis of, what are you doing, Sherri? Like, you can't do this. Like, I really started to feel too much pressure because there's too many people that want this. So then I had to really go within and say, am I capable of this? Because remember, I may not seem like this right now, but I am a very shy person. I'm very reserved. I do not like people. The worst idea to me, the thought, if I go outside and someone recognized me, that like from an interview, oh, you're Sherri, I'd be like, oh my God, no, because I like in my life, like normally I like to just hide. I just like to be like in a little shell. So it's really hard for me to come out of my comfort zone and be a public speaker. But I had to come to terms with, this is my journey. And I told my daughter that I'm going to help her with this, and this is not about me. So I've grown exponentially because of that. And I can feel like people feel my passion because of that. And that's the energy that I give off is, this is not about me. This is not about my daughter. This is about children all over the world. They're looking at us as the adults to say, hey, help us do something. And instead of complaining about it, I said, you know what? We got to do something, actually, like do something about it. So I feel like I'm doing my best with just me. I'm just one person. But my point in everything I'm saying right now is I started to change my interview style. And I started to tell people, if you are interested in what I'm doing, and you are backing me, and you want this for your children, don't wait for me. Create your own pods. Do this on your own in your community. And I can't tell you how many emails I've received and calls over the last few years of parents that did it. And they're like, because of you, we started a whole community in our area, and it's thriving, and children are happy. Do you know how happy that makes me feel? Because then I realize the burden isn't necessarily on me. I'm just a part of it, but I inspired so many people to do something because I said it, because they're like, oh, I didn't know that that was an option, because no one told us it was an option. They don't want us to have this. They don't want our children to thrive. They don't want our children to be out of the box thinkers. They don't want our children to be way showers and innovative and free thinkers, because that goes against everything that they stand for within this matrix, the dark players, as I call them. They don't want any of that. So they try to do everything they can to indoctrinate our children and prohibit them in any way they can that individualizes them. So they label them with these false labels. They're not even true. So now I speak publicly about, hey, these labels that they're using on your child, don't buy into it. It's not true. It's a farce. These children are gifted. I'm honored if someone says their child is autistic. I say, you know how amazing that is? Let me tell you why your child is autistic. Let me explain it to you. Do you know what ADHD is? Let me explain it to you. Your child is multidimensional. They're exceptional. They're so much more than this label. And so I've helped so many parents all over the world unlabel and detach their label from their child to help them realize that it's actually beautiful to be unique and different, and they're supposed to break the matrix, you know?
So important. I mean, that's the whole lifetime in front of them, free of that
Right?
wow. It's just like you're opening up the cage. I feel like we're born into captivity like zoo animals, but we become so acclimated that people, when they're, even shown their natural habitat, are afraid of it, right? But you're getting right to the children before that indoctrination happens. It's beautiful.
Exactly. That's where it's at. And why do you think our children are targeted so much? They know it too. So it's like, mama bears are waking up all over the world, and dads. I don't want to put the dads down, but we're doing something about it. No longer are we going to allow them to, because it takes generations. We got to give props to the generations before us that paved the way for me and the indigos to come through. And then the indigos were like, hold on a second. I'm not going to listen to everything I'm told. I'm going to start to think on my own, but I have limitations, but I'm going to start spearheading a movement. And then by the time my children came and activated me even more, it changed me even more. And my DNA started to activate. And now these children come in because I evolved, shifted the epigenetics for them. Now their epigenetics are different, and they're not carrying that ancestral trauma as much anymore. And they're breaking cycles, and they're creating so many new pathways. It's incredible.
What I really like about your story, I mean, I like it on so many levels. I love what you said about communicating with animals. I really feel like animals are the greatest gift to humanity. And I love the fact that you were able to speak with them. And I wanted to know, when you were speaking with them and communicating them, what did you get what was the message that they said to you? What was it, a feeling? Was it like a thought, or what did you learn from them?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't even answer that in one question, because my fifth book that I'm working on right now is called Healing the Human Animal Bond.
Mhm.
And I'm putting in 25 years worth of information into this book because animals are my passion. They were my first love before my children came, and I started to shift my focus to children. But they're really one and the same because it's all about the frequency that we embody. You know, and the beautiful thing about animals is um, people have this false perception because on purpose, because this is what we are indoctrinated to believe, that they are less than us, that they have not evolved. You have to evolve to be a human because we're so special and so unique. And yes, we are special and we are unique, but that's simply not true. And what I learned through the animal kingdom is there's so much more to the story. And in actuality, and more now than ever before, the souls coming in and volunteering to be a domesticated animal, specifically, we're talking about domestics right now, are our star family. Sometimes they're fractals of our own consciousness that embody a dog or a cat in order for us to touch and receive unconditional love from ourselves back to ourselves. They are soul family members, our soul tribe that put themselves in a physical incarnation for a short period of time to embody a much higher frequency so that they can help us through our trauma and release because they absorb our traumas, they absorb our pain, they absorb our dis-ease. And unfortunately, that's why a lot of them are passing away, including some of my own, have left me and broken my heart. I mean, I still cry to this day thinking about my cat that died 10 years ago because that was my first love before I had kids. And he's reincarnated right now. You guys saw it's a sphinx that was sitting on my lap. It's the same cat, the same soul, different cat, but I still grieve the other one. Isn't that crazy? Because it's really hard for us to let go. But they volunteer to come into our life to be our companions, to show us unconditional love, to shift the frequencies, to help us heal, to absorb our pain, and to help us evolve by being with us in our presence. It's really lovely to have angels and our spirit guides in the astral, but we can't really touch them. We can't hold them. We can't snuggle them, but we can do that with an animal, at least our pets. So that was the biggest message I got is that they're actually here to help us. They are here to be our guides, our greatest teachers, our greatest love in some cases.
So what is the greatest,
Or
but what is the greatest lesson that you learned from your
Well, I think it was that the indoctrination of animals are less than us and that we're more powerful than them and they should bow down to us and we control them and we're at the top. Like all of these things that I was told growing up and I never resonated with it. So the biggest lesson I learned is no, actually they're much more evolved than we are in some cases. And there is no hierarchy and they're actually here to teach us something, to teach us compassion, maybe to teach us empathy, to help us to be more sensitive, to help us tap into that heart space that a lot of us are closed off because of the traumas that we have. How closed off must my heart have been being sexually molested repeatedly by a disgusting old man and being kidnapped as a young girl, not understanding. I remember thinking to myself, what did I do wrong and why did my mom let me go? Like, how horrible is that as a 3-year-old to think that your mom abandoned you? I know that's not true now. So my heart was so closed off. The only one that opened my heart was my dog. So that's what they do for us. So that is the most profound epiphany I've ever had is they have the ability to do that for us.
totally. And like you said, the heart centeredness and being so present in the now, and it's so easy to have our minds all over the place. It's like cats, sitting on your heart and purring with the hurts. And it's just like, wow. I love all that you're sharing here. Just the spirit guides in pet form. And I mean, how unbelievable to have gone through all that. And to be so transparent as well, just how you lived kind of the worst of yourself, you did that work, and how being conscious of the feelings that you had when you flipped it over, it showed you your mission. When you gave it the respect it deserved, like you're giving children that respect, and by not sticking the labels on them like you didn't yourself. You weren't going to stay stuck. You weren't going to be victimized. You turned that pain into purpose, and it's just amazing. It's so amazing. I'm so excited to be talking to you about this because I've been writing a lot about it, and gosh, I haven't talked to somebody that's really taken this role like to the level that you have in regards to education and children. It's really profound.
I also agree with that. I mean, and I also like the fact that you're encouraging parents to do that and to start their own schools. And I just think, that's you're coming from such a service to others mentality, consciousness that I think is really important for us right now. And I feel like it really does fit into where we are as a people. I feel like this is where it's going, and you're right on the cut. You're right on the right. You're right on it. I mean, you're right where we're going. You're at the forefront, really.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. I don't believe in competition. I think healthy competition is great. Sometimes, of course, we need to be motivated by the success of others and and that's how we evolved, sure. But I don't believe in competition. I mean, I literally put my almost put my basically put my business plan in Starseeds in the Great Awakening. I have a whole section on the Aramis Creative Learning Center and the future of education, and I lay it all out. Aramis
Mhm.
stages of learning, developmental stages, what's wrong and what we can do better. And I'm like, here you go. Here's the blueprints. Now go and create it because I'm not trying to monopolize the education. I don't want anyone to idolize me. I feel like I don't know. My daughter just opened something up and activated and said, Mom, I need you to do this. Because by the time I get to a certain age when she's ready, like Laura said, she will be turned on. And I think a lot of the reason she's turned off is because when I started speaking publicly, I would get attacked psychically all the time. I still do to this day, but they would attack her because they always try to go through who means your family. They'll go through your children, and she was severely attacked. It was, I mean, there were times where I just didn't even do interviews, and I was like, I have to protect my daughter. They're going after her to get to me. It was really hard for me to navigate through that period of, oh my gosh, like am I being irresponsible? Should I stop this? But I knew I'm like, no, these are all the things that the 3D interference they do to stop you. So now I'm like, I'm gonna spread it out even more, but I'm gonna tell people to do it themselves. You can't stop everybody. If I can encourage people to create their own thing, well, then now it's everywhere. It's not just me, right? It's not like my idea that they can patent and steal.
I think that's really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
How has it been? I mean, you talked at the event about like attack energy, and I just love the story that you told about, commanding the animal kingdom and how that energy shifted. How much do you find, that comes up for you, and is that a part of what you share, with others? A lot. Is this something that you experience a lot? Is it just, well, I mean, I know you knew to, do that when you were really in a tough situation, but can you talk to us more about that? Maybe tell that
Yeah,
story,
maybe
just
I'll tell you,
summarize it.
I'll tell the quick version of the story so it will make sense because actually it's quite important to get into, especially right now. And I keep meaning to do a video on this topic because it's important, especially for children. But um, I when years ago, I when my daughter was around 2, I can't remember. Time is really hard to remember. But I took a class with this shamanic woman in my area. I don't want to give too specifics because I don't like to put anyone down, and I don't want anyone to know who I'm talking about because it doesn't really matter. It's not about attacking her, but she turned out to not be what I thought she was, and she was a big manipulator. She was siphoning energy, and she attracted people like myself that were already doing this type of thing in business. So I think that she wanted to control other professionals in her industry because everybody that was in her class was professionals, Reiki practitioners, or on some level like that. And she ended up massively attacking me, and I backed out of her class as soon as I figured out what was going on. And this woman attacked me psychically for about a month or so.
What do you mean? So what happened exactly?
So I could hear her because I'm very in tune. I
Mhm.
felt her like I never, so I'm the type of person, if I don't trust you anymore, this might sound severe, but this is who I am. If I don't trust you or you wrong me or I feel like you have bad intentions with me, I cut off ties, not only 100%, but I will delete the person from my phone, delete any email we've ever had, any pictures of that person. I'll throw anything away that they've ever, because it's all about energy ties. I've even gotten rid of phones. And I did that with this woman. So I know I did my due diligence. I blocked her. I erased anything she had ever given me, even candles. I mean, anything. But I
Mhm.
still felt her presence. I felt her energy. and I felt these dogs. I don't even want to call them wolves. They were these angry, vicious dogs growling at me all the time. I felt her in my head and laughing at me, taunting. I knew it was her because I knew it was her. And she would
Mhm.
just attack me all the time, and just try to scare me and send me bad energy. And she was in my head all the time. And I was doing everything I could to get rid of her. I mean, I did all the stuff I know. I even had an energy healer that I trust do a healing on me. That didn't even work. I mean, she said, this woman is powerful. And I'm like,
Mm.
I don't know what to do. And at that time, my daughter was having extreme night terrors. So I slept in my daughter's room with her for over 2 years. It caused a strain in my relationship because I didn't sleep with my husband for years. I slept in my daughter's room in her bed with her every single night. And it was this time I was in her bed that I was being attacked. And one night I was laying up in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep because this woman was taunting me. My daughter was next to me, partly asleep, partly awake. So I couldn't let her know what was going on. But I heard the dogs screaming, her screeching in my ear. The dogs were barking. I felt a heaviness on my chest, like something was suffocating me. And I was terrified. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not know what to do. I was thinking, I was gridding the house, all this stuff. And she laughed at me because I did this grid over the house, but I didn't do the bottom. And I could still to this day remember the sound of her voice taunting me, like, you think I can't go from under your house? Like,
Wow.
idiot, like that's how she was talking to me, very angry. And that's
Mhm.
when I lost it. I was like, shit, I don't know what to do. And I was about to cry, but I was holding back the tears because I didn't want my daughter to see. And as soon as I calmed myself down and I surrendered for just a second, I heard this voice in my head say, call on the animal kingdom. And it was in that instant that I just had like a knowing, like a quick download of, I knew what to do. I just needed to be reminded. And I said, I call upon the animal kingdom at this time to protect me all dimensions, time, and space. And I said this really fast prayer. And I'm not exaggerating. Within milliseconds, I heard the elephants, because elephants are my protectors. I heard elephants trumpeting all around my house. I heard lions roaring. I heard bears. Every animal you could think of was walking around my house in a circle. There were birds and raptors and all dragons flying above my house. There were snakes and monkeys in the trees. Under the ground, there were all sorts of burrowing animals and insects. And I was like, whoa. It was instant and powerful. And I heard the dog screechy and the woman make a screechy sound. And I never heard from her again. Gone. And she never came back. And that was it. All I had to do was call in the animal kingdom, and they were there, and they got rid of her. She never bothered me again.
Wow. That's
So
incredible.
profound.
Oh, it's credible. I don't mean it's incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I know what you
totally
mean.
credible. That's
Yeah. So to answer Laura's question, because it was such a profound experience that I realized, oh, I do have a connection with the animal kingdom. I don't know why I didn't think about this before. And we all do. So I'm not special in that sense. So I started to do that more, and I realized the level of protections that animals provide, that level of protection that animals provide is profound, and they are willing and wanting to help us. So I use them all the time. And like Laura said, or her question, I get attacked regularly because I do interviews, and I do public speaking, and my book is out there, and I have Instagram and Facebook and all of these things. And I don't do anything controversial. I'm very careful about my posts because I am also I have integrity. So
Mhm.
I care about my reputation. I don't care what people think, but I do care about my reputation, if that makes sense, because I want to put off an energy where parents trust me with their child. It matters to me, the persona that I give off to people. So I'm very professional. But I'm still out there, and I'm still part of this change or this movement that a lot don't want. So I'm attacked I can feel it. I can sense it. It's always around, but my force fields generally can prevent it. But I got sick recently, and I actually needed help. And my friend Laura Van Tyne, I don't know if you guys know who she is. She helped me tremendously, and the animals helped me again. So I use them often, and I coach children and adults to use the animal to call on the animal kingdom. And I have had countless, I mean, countless uh calls after, when someone said they used my technique, or they called on the animal kingdom and it worked, and they couldn't believe it. They're like, I can't believe it, like in a good way. And I have coached many children to do the same thing through their night terrors, and to help them feel safe at night when they're sleeping. And their parents will report back to me, I have a new child. It works for everybody. So it's a neat little trick.
I have a question
Yeah.
because Now I'm thinking about, as you're talking about, and you're telling the story about being protected by the animal kingdom, uh, a few things. You've got these elephants behind you, and it's good luck in Italy to have like the trunk of an elephant, an icon of an elephant facing the door. And if that is protection for the family. And I'm thinking, when I grew up, there was this toy store. I don't know if you knew about this, called FAO Schwartz.
Uh-huh.
And you remember FAO Schwartz? He used to have like these huge stuffed animals, right? And we used to have them as kids. We'd have these huge stuffed animals in our bedrooms. And I just wonder if that's like remnants of what we knew way, way back a long time ago when we did actually call on the animal kingdom to protect us. And maybe that's what those stuffed animals are really serving. Now
You're
that I think,
absolutely right. I've actually coached children to get stuffed animals and call their soul animal to go in there, and they can feel the animal in that stuffed animal. It can be
That's
powerful.
wow. My stuffed animals were in everything, like everything. I would sleep on the floor and put them all on the bed because I would feel bad if they weren't all there. My mom would come in and I'd be curled up on the floor. It's just,
aw, I could see you doing that.
my mom's like, okay. Oh my gosh. Uh, it's just, so incredible. And the way we relate to, animals and the changes that you're creating, in the school systems, I feel like, it's very much what you're changing, in the way that humans perceive the animal kingdom as well, because that's so strong in you. When I, tune into your energy, I just see you just opening up the cages, and just setting people free. Um, and what people are afraid of is just something that comes so natural to us. It's just incredible. So, um, what do you feel about the world that you see when you see, the pronouns, the gender confusion, just this next level indoctrination? How do you see us and the work that you're doing, the leadership that you hold, being able to rehabilitate this? Like, what sort of tools or modalities do you think can help, the kids that have gone this far down that road?
Yeah, gosh, that's such an important topic. And I do have, unfortunately, a good number of clients, children that are in their teens, early 20s that are suicidal, that are so fragmented and they're struggling so much because they have completely lost their way through indoctrination to a point where they don't know who they are anymore. And they're very dissociated. And it is a problem. The woke agenda is as I refer to it in my book, my last book, and I speak about it publicly a lot because people don't understand that everyone says, oh, the woke agenda, but they don't realize the layers of the agenda that is in front of us because it starts with disconnecting the family unit. And when you disconnect the family unit, their purpose for that is to cause division so that we don't have this core unit anymore. And I'm not saying that if you're a divorced family or a blended family, there's something wrong with you, but they're trying to fragment the family so that there's no unit anymore. And when you separate the children and you indoctrinate them through the music these days that they listen to that distorts their frequencies, it has programming within it, subliminal messaging, not so subliminal messaging through their lyrics, and the movies and the shows that clearly have an agenda to separate, to hypersexualize, and then to confuse the genders. All of these things are different movements, different agendas, but really what all it's doing is funneling them, our children, to take them away from us so that they can indoctrinate them into you could be anything you want to be. Now we have the cat people and the dog people and the dinosaur people and the children that believe that, and I have clients that are, so I know it's real, that really believe that they're not Lyrans, by the way. These are indoctrinated children that have been fragmented, and they some of them think they're lizards. So it's a real thing. Some of those are actually entity attachments. That's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down. But the point is that if they cause confusion, we can go into this transhumanism movement, and then we become bots and human hybrid uh, robot beings, and then they fully control us. And I mean, that's the trajectory in which this timeline was headed at one point. But I truly believe that we have shifted the trajectory of the consciousness through our awakening through many different pathways that we pivoted back this way. And our children being born today are a big part of that by shifting the frequency. But unfortunately, there was a window or a gap or a group that did fall into that category and were manipulated, which is what your question is about. So it's really about, there's so many elements to this, but as we collapse the education indoctrination system and the medical system and the pharmaceutical and all these control mechanisms, because there's a ceiling, they don't want us to get above it. If we could take out the pharmaceuticals, if we could take children out of traditional therapy, if we could take them out of the indoctrination schooling and just remove all of the things that's capping them in these little boxes, they'll be able to breathe again. So get them off the medications, find them spiritual therapists. And I'm not talking about they have to believe in past lives and all that, but a therapist that's open to explaining more than the physical and what's going on, and tap into and potentially help these fragmented souls do soul retrieval or entity removals, because a lot of them have entity attachments, if not a lot. Then there's the NPCs and that whole category. So it's about removing these platforms, breaking them down, and then providing them families with the resources that they need. And I'm going to be honest with you, Laura and Marissa, that has been extremely difficult and challenging and I'm not a political person. I don't like talking about politics, but sometimes there's just no way around it. This last political structure that we have found ourselves in has severely limited, that's not a word, limited our ability to help our children thrive and get the resources they need. If anything, they hyper focused more on the agendas, which is why we're even calling it the woke agenda. So that group is no longer, or soon to be, hopefully, if we don't have any hiccups or setbacks. And now we can shift to collapsing the corruption so that we can provide the actual resources that these children need. Because what I'm seeing is when I communicate with the soul of the person, of the child that's struggling with multiple personality disorder, bipolar, whatever it is that they're labeled with, their soul is saying, hey, I'm here. I'm like Laura mentioned with my daughter. They're back here, they're hanging out. They're kind of in incognito mode in a video game. They're like, I'm just going to hang out back here. I'll let this part of me be indoctrinated because I need to be part, because sometimes people are come in these souls to be part of the awakening. So I'm going to be a cat and I'm going to annoy the crap out of all these people and I'm going to wake these people up because they're like, you should know that there's something not right with this. So some of them are actually playing roles. And then their soul will start to come through as humanity shifts, the frequency shifts, they'll come back in. And a lot of them will be fine, if not most of them. Does that make sense? It was really hard to explain all of that.
I
Really
think
well explained. Absolutely.
so. I'm wondering though, I mean, I feel really hopeful at this point because we have now, I know we're not, you don't want to talk politics, but I am going to say that there is this movement where, they want to remove the seed oils and the fluoride from the water. And,
Those are the things I'm talking about. That's the change that we need. So
that's
be under a
yeah.
policy that will allow that to happen, because this policy wants us to be healthy. That's why
Right.
we have Robert F. Kennedy. I mean, there's
That's what I was
things that
talking
are falling
about.
into place. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea of make America healthy again.
Exactly.
It's really like I have chills when I even think about it. I just have
Right.
never been more hopeful about the future as I am now because of this movement and the whole golden timeline that I just feel like everything just shifted.
Yes, it has. It really has. I'm so hopeful. I feel like a weight has been lifted. Like this weight was on my back, and I feel like I could breathe again. And
Same.
people, every time I have an interview, I'm always asked the same question at some point. How are you so confident, or how do you know, or how do you remain hopeful that we are on the right trajectory, on the right timeline, things are going to be okay? That's the question that I'm sure a lot of people get. It's not just me. But I answer it differently than probably 99% of the population because of the work that I do. So my answer to that, and it remains the same to this day, right in the second, because I work with so many children and I work with a lot of parents who I'm communicating with the unborn child that's not even here yet.
Mhm.
I know because I'm told that these souls, I'm not even going to call them children, these souls from all over the galaxies, from higher dimensions that are already ascended beings would not and will not incarnate in this dimension if we were not on the trajectory of change. This is an ascension timeline, and they would not continue to keep coming if we were not going to get there. Because what's the point? If they knew that were doom and gloom, and the other side won, and we were going to go into this transhumanism robot reality of full control, then there's no reason for them to come. They'll just wait till the next cycle. So they're continuing to come. And that has always given me the hope that I need. I don't care what anyone else tells me. I don't care what podcasters are saying. I'm not the person that listens. I don't care what anyone else says anyways. And I don't mean that from any arrogance. I'm actually quite humble. I don't want to be tainted by other people's perceptions because we're all have our different thoughts. So what helps me sleep at night and what helps me feel totally at peace, no matter what's happening around me or what anyone else is saying, I'm like, I have the privilege and the honor every single day to sit here at this desk and have a Zoom session with the most magnificent people all over the world, of new children all the way to 99-year-old woman or man and older. And I see the future that I'm being shown from their soul, and it's beautiful. So
It's,
that's how I stay positive.
and that's it right there. And that's so beautifully put. Uh, yeah, my gosh. I mean, people hold their purpose, the reason they came in. And indoctrination, it's not a natural energy. And life gives you the breakthroughs eventually to, shatter that so that, what's organic and real can, shine through. But it's very, very difficult if there's not somebody like you to hold that space. The isolation and the separation from self. I mean, how is it that we be in this transhumanism if it wasn't for the separation from the soul matrix, from the ability to connect with the higher self, to the soul, to the intuition? And after a number of years without having any exposure to it, it's sort of like the madness you see of a prisoner that yeah, and it's the drugging, the shutting off of the emotions and all these labels, like you said. So yeah, and I feel you on that. Like I don't listen. I can observe in neutrality what other people are saying, but it's a gut feeling, that you just know. And that positivity is there, or the concern is there, and it's an urgency to act, not to be in fear, not to sit back and wait for somebody else to do it, which you haven't. So I just commend you so much for all that you're doing. And I'm just seeing this new administration really propping up people like you and making, this way of education being um, more the norm than not.
It's a
So
huge
there's a lot of hope
demand.
there.
I think there's a huge demand. Like when I was doing sessions with children, even 2, 3 years ago, I would
Mhm.
say in my percentage of my clients speaking of my kind of the demographic I was working with, I would say greater than 70% were in public school, but the parents were considering an alternative. And because of me, they were like, I didn't know I had that option. That sounds great. Because homeschooling has been kind of a taboo thing um, up until pretty recently, maybe the last 5 years. It's not mainstream, anyways. And now, let's just talk right now, in November 2024. Do you know how many of my clients with children are in public school now? Just a couple of years later? Like, it's a complete opposite, actually. Greater than 70% are homeschooled now. I actually get surprised when I have a session with a new child to this day where their parent says their child is still in public school. And I don't say it, I don't, because I would never judge, because I also know that there are children in the public schools. We can't take them all out because some of our children have a sole contract to be within the school grid system because there is technology emitting negative frequencies, and they're there to be the light to shift the frequencies because they actually just they don't really shift the frequency, they distort the interruptive distorted frequencies that are emitted on the school grids, um, and they're there to be a balance, they're there to actually shift the energy, so they're there for a reason. So that's, if someone's listening to this and their child is in public school and you start to feel guilty, don't, because if your child is okay there and they're not struggling and they seem to be thriving, they're probably there for a reason. So it's not everybody needs to quickly leave. But I just think that's pretty cool of how that shift that's occurred. That just shows you where the collective is heading and what parents want for their children and what children are finally advocating for themselves and saying what they need. My daughter outright refused to go to public school because she was in public school until we moved to Florida. And she literally, this little 7-year-old spunky girl said, I'm not going to public school, like shaking her head. And I'm like, whoa, the attitude on this one, you know? But I agreed with her. So I had to come up with a compromise because I didn't know, I couldn't just school her by myself. I work full time. I'm very busy. I'm running a school, writing books and doing sessions. I'm like, Aramis, we got to work together here. So she went for the first year we were here and she hated it. She cried all the time. It was awful. And then I pulled her out. I said, you know what, we'll figure it out. And then I found a homeschool pod. And anyways, things are better now, but sometimes you got to work with what you have too.
Totally. Yeah, gosh. I'm so excited about the turn of events. I feel such a lightness too. And it's so funny because the things that I haven't done for 4 years, that it's just like, I'm like, wow, I'm excited to just do these mundane tasks that I just didn't have the energy for. Just, I don't know. A lot of inspiration. Talking to you is just like a whole nother notch up of just like smiling deep in my soul and
Oh,
just gratitude for you. Um, I don't know if you have any more questions, Marisa. I mean, I could talk to you all day. Is there anything, we haven't asked you that is important for you to share with us? And if you
uh,
have, Marisa.
yeah, that's a good thought. I think the biggest encouragement that I can give people right now, whether you have children or not, whether you're a child or an adult, is really, and you all talk about this, so I'm just kind of preaching to the choir, but really, like, this is great what happened, but no one is our savior, and we can't put anyone on a pedestal because that's how we get ourselves into trouble. So um, I'm I am hopeful and excited about the direction we're going, but ultimately we all have our own responsibility to play a role in the advancement and the evolution of of the collective. So we all have to kind of step it up. And part of that stepping up process is going within and doing the healing. And it's really uncomfortable. It's not fun. Many people have these dark nights of the soul. I went through many. But that's how you find yourself, and that's how you become empowered and you become a true sovereign being where you can utilize free will without being tainted by perception of illusion and mockery and programming and competition and all of these things that we find ourselves as a human feeling, these limitations, and we have to push beyond that and become more neutral, and allow our emotions to feed us into a direction and a movement and to motivate us and to warn us, depending on the emotion. But we have to take everyone has to take responsibility instead of looking at everyone else and say, what can I do to be part of the evolution? What can I do to be part of the change? Not everyone needs to open up a school or go out on Zoom and create a podcast, because people are passively doing work too. But just by simply going out and honoring your presence and having grace and dignity in who you are and how you represent yourself and how you talk to people and how you treat people and how you treat the world and the animals and nature. What are you doing on a passive level, on a conscious level, on a mindfulness level, emotional level, on a physical level, and an action level? Check yourself to see where there are areas of improvement, because we're always a work in progress. No one is perfect, but we evolve together. And I think that's the goal here, is unity. How do we get to this unity consciousness instead of division? So in order to do that, we have to learn how to forgive and get through judgment and competition, because that's how they divided us in the first place. Is, oh, I hate you because you're this color or you're that gender or you have this money and I don't have it. It's absurd and ridiculous. So we got to see through all of the BS, those lies, and find love in our hearts again. But we can't love anyone else until we love ourselves first. I know that sounds like a silly Hallmark card, but it's so true.
It is so true. And it's so important because I mean, I not feeling light because it's necessarily the administration. It's seeing, the way this side of things treats the other side.
Right.
And it's not everybody, but it's people like you that hold that unity consciousness that, might feel there's more of an ability to do the work you do unhindered than maybe before. And to encourage, this bridging where the compassion and love for those that are lost, those who got indoctrination, they're not, there's no separation or judgment there.
Yeah.
Like we're all, we told you so, um, it's like, it's a really, really harsh thing to, wake up to. And there should be no, ego about it or complacency in thinking that, this is going to save the day. So I appreciate your message. Marisa, what are your thoughts?
Um, I think it's really important to realize that I used to think, I have this t-shirt that I wear, "We the people, free the people," right? But I really think it all comes back to us, the individual, that we have to take responsibility for ourselves and, like you say, act with integrity. And I think the most important thing we can do is really come from love and be service to others, which is what you do so beautifully. And I think that also, you know, instead of like wondering why somebody isn't waking up and how can you not possibly see that seed oils are bad for you, and there's fluoride, like your
Yeah.
pineal gland is calcified. And I just think, just by leading by example and living your life and being the light, I think that is the way we really change things. Because I think that once you do that, that light is inspirational, and it's like courage is infectious. I think like that light is something, when you're in the dark, you see like a little beacon and you go towards it. And I feel like that's what
Yeah.
everybody can be. And I feel like everybody has that inner pilot light, and it's time to really shine and flip that light switch on. And I feel like that's where we are right now.
Yes.
I
Just
love that.
igniting the mission and the soul calling within all. And for you to touch children at that, tender age where they need that guidance and that confidence,
Mhm.
is everything. And this will get to the root of
Mhm.
just so much imbalance that can occur in the mental and emotional bodies that, don't deserve a label, but deserve unconditional love and attention and guidance and support. So thank you for being that person in the world. It's like the most important work out there. So it's been incredible to have you.
You
And
guys so much. It's been such an honor to talk to both of you.
and Sherri, whenever you have something you want to talk about, or you have something new, a new book or something, you ever want to come back, the doors, we'd love to
Love
have
that.
you.
Maybe when I release the next book, the animal healing the human animal bond, we can talk about the animals more.
That would be amazing.
Oh, that's excellent.
And
Yes,
you're my
please.
neighbor.
What'd you say?
And she's my neighbor.
I know, that's crazy. We're so
That's
close. My
neighbors?
son lives in Boca, so he's probably closer to you than I am.
Oh my God. Okay. So we
Oh,
should, get together and have lunch or
Yeah.
coffee.
Well, thank you
oh,
so much,
wow.
both of you, for having me on. It was an honor. It was so much fun.
Oh, great. Yes, it was so much fun. And any thing coming up that you want to just share, a website, we'll put it all in the description, but if there's anything, you want to make sure to plug or share before we close.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. My main website is sherridivband.com. The Aramis Creative Learning Center website for the online classes and pre-recorded videos and resources on that is aramiscreativelearning.com. We are taking a holiday break, so there are no classes being offered for these 2 months, November, December, but we'll resume again in January just to give the mentors a break that are teaching the classes. I have a cool retreat coming up in February with Laura Van Tyne and Abby Lynn in Jupiter, Florida. So that information is coming out really soon. I'll be at Journey to Truth this year. I'll be at Disclosure Now again with Laura, I believe. Maybe, I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. Like I don't know who's else is going, but a lot of other things. But those are the main things. My books are all on Amazon. And yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming.
Sherry, thank you,
Sure.
Marissa, for another wonderful episode of Divine Mother Earth Time. And what an incredible Divine Mother you've had today. All right,
Thank you.
bye, everybody.
Bye.